All right, this is an overview of the process for making snickerdoodles. Your ingredients that you're going to be needing for this recipe: flour, baking soda, cream of tartar, an item we don't use that often, but has an important purpose in this recipe. Make sure you read the bottom of the container. This tells you what it is because it could be confused with the other items. We're going to need some salt, regular sugar. There's going to be some cinnamon that's measured out for you so it's precise. I'm going to roll the cookies in that at the end, mix with some sugar, a single egg, and then for our fats, it's half a stick of butter, 2 ounces, and then also 2 ounces of shortening. Okay, and that will be measured out for you. Now, the ingredients measuring out. We're going to want to get a cup and a quarter of flour. Make sure you spoon that in loosely to level that off so it is accurate. Wooden spoon or any other straight edge. We're going to go ahead and put that into a boat, that cup plus another quarter, and use our scale to double check that we are measuring things correctly. Now, as far as our other small dry ingredients, it's a half teaspoon of salt in its own little Dixie cup. It's a half teaspoon of baking soda in a separate little Dixie cup. And it is a full teaspoon of cream of tartar. So it's critical you measure these things correctly because the tartar and the baking soda look pretty much the same to the untrained eye, but they have totally different properties. So if you get these backwards, it's going to really mess up your recipe. All right, and use yourself a little wooden spoon or something as a straight edge. Okay, so 1 full teaspoon cream of tartar. Be in the habit of putting lids on things and putting them out of the way when you're done. Okay, and when we're done measuring, we're going to go ahead and put our flour into a smaller bowl and add in our salt, baking soda, and cream of tartar. Get in the habit of throwing all your containers away when you're done. And we're going to use a whisk to mix this together just to make sure that those small dry ingredients are mixed evenly. We don't have to use a sifter and get that dirty. All right, now that we're done with those dry ingredients, we're going to measure out our white sugar. The amount is 3/4 of a cup. You may not find a 3/4 cup measuring cup, so we're going to do some math and use a 1/4 cup 3 separate times. We would put it on the scale to double check. It should be 5.5 ounces, but this is going to be part of our wet ingredients going with the butter and shortening later on in the recipe. Now we're going to measure out our cinnamon sugar mix that these are rolled in at the end. That is going to be 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to add that to a boat. And then 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, or the equivalent is half a tablespoon of cinnamon. That is going to be mixed into the boat. Okay, you can go ahead and use your measuring spoons to mix this together. We also sometimes use colored sugar to make this a little bit more festive. This is what the cookies are going to be rolled in before they get baked. So we want that done now, just so it's ready to go. And again, get in the habit of putting lids on things and getting them put away once you're done with your measuring. All right, now it is time to get ourselves totally organized and start making our dough. So this is our finishing bowl. And just like in chocolate chip cookies and a lot of sugar cookie recipes, we're going to start by creaming the fat together. This time it's butter and shortening. And to that, we're going to add our 3/4 a cup of sugar. So creaming sugar into the fat. This should allow this to get a little bit more aerated, fluffy, and lighter, trapping air. And then we will be adding in our egg coming up. And so if we did not have this thing mixed in properly, then the addition of the egg will definitely make this happen. Okay, so you crack your egg in. Go ahead and step off camera as I did and get your hands washed. And once our hands are washed, we're going to go ahead and mix this egg in. This should help make everything with the fats and the sugar cream together. And once we feel that that is pretty well incorporated, then our dry ingredients, the flour, baking soda, salt, and cream of tartar can get incorporated, not all at once, just a little bit at a time, so it can mix in best. So I'm doing this in about 3 stages. And here comes the last of it. Just mixing in, moving the bowl around. And this may seem kind of crumbly, like it's not mixed together properly. Okay, but it is. Okay, so with gloved hands or with a spatula, you can kind of bring this all together to see that it does make one consistent dough ball. Okay, so there's no need to add any other liquid. Trust the process. It's just the fact that maybe my butter and sugar could have been mixed a little bit longer in the initial stages. All right, so this will end up being our dough that we're going to be rolling, portioning out with a certain scoop and rolling in the cinnamon sugar before we bake it off. And for those who like to do the cookies later on, then this could certainly be put into a container in the refrigerator to chill and sit for a while. All right, and haven't made a mess of things with my hands here, but once you're done with your dough, get it all into a consistent ball. It's going to be time for some cleanup. Okay, so again, you can have gloved hands on for this. Might be preferable. I wasn't going to reshoot the whole video. I forgot to grab myself a set of gloves. Okay, but it is going to be time for cleanup before we roll these out so that we have the space. So eject your beaters. Hopefully you remember which button that is so you don't turn it on. Keep your hands away from that just in case. Stack up everything inside your bowl, okay, that you use. Put it towards the edge of the table so that it can be put together for a washing load. And then we're just down to our dough. How we finish these off. Now we mentioned before these portion scoops. This is a very standard, this purple portion scoop. This is definitely like sour cream and guacamole scoops, Mexican restaurant and all. And again, it has a system, all right, and on this one it's here, system of number 40 scoops level for a quart, 4 cups, or 10 scoops per quart. This is the size cookie scoop I believe we want to be using. Now this is old-fashioned with a thumb dispenser. It's got a spring. Sometimes it come apart. You know, watch out for parts coming off when these things break into the food. The newer style, this is from Volrath. This originally was either a Volrath or Hamilton Beach. The newer style is squeeze handle. Okay, thumb is still involved, but it's a little bit easier for y'all to manage. You do this several hundred times in a shift, you honestly start getting pretty sore thumbs at the end. All right, so this orange, and again, the color system, doesn't matter if Volrath made this or Hamilton Beach, they'll be orange. This I want to say is 100. It's written on the side. Yeah, it's a size 100. I think this is too small for cookies this size. If you did that size, you would get a lot more, and they take less time to bake. All right, level this off. That amount of dough is an ounce. Okay, so if this is 40 scoops to a quart, which is 32 ounces, you would predict, you know, that you would, for it to be an ounce, the scoops wouldn't match up. But remember, we've got, that's for water. Okay, so if they're an ounce, if I do this every single time, okay, now without looking, 3, 4, see if I'm being consistent, 5, 6, I have 6 ounces, and we do. Okay, so I know that that would make 16 cookies. Now, if you guys have this dough that we make in class and take home, okay, then we want to get spoons that are about that size. The tablespoon, okay, is a little bit smaller. And I want to caution you guys about using tablespoons as scoops that way, because you can bend this up. All right, so with gloves on, you get spoons that you eat out of. You just grab off chunks of dough, eyeball it. Now with their gloves on, we can roll these into balls. We're gonna roll them into cinnamon sugar, nice and coated. Okay, go on the sheet pan. So let me do basically more scooping to work efficiently here. Because every time that I pick up the scoop and put it down, table's clean, don't care if it fell off, that's a wasted motion. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about being efficient in what you're doing. If I pick this up, scoop it in my hands, roll it around, put it in the cinnamon sugar, put it on the sheet pan, and go back to pick up the scoop, that is slowing me down. So as much as you can, do consistent movements, and you'll have a learning curve, getting in a rhythm. Okay, now that said, you're only scooping this 16 times. You sometimes have to do the scoop 2-3 times. I predict no one's thumb is gonna get sore and fall off 50 scoops. Try doing a few hundred, close to 1,000 in a short amount of time. All right, so let's see our count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and a little bit left. So that's good. All right, now, are these all gonna fit spaced out like this? Possibly not. Okay, but we'll get an idea that we probably could get a dozen. All right, so let me roll this up. All right, and we'll look to come back to this in time lapse. Here's the entire process again in time lapse of getting these cookies ready to go in the oven. Make your balls, roll them around in the cinnamon sugar, and then I sometimes will use the heel of my hand to flatten out the cookie. Can lead to a crisper cookie, a little bit chewier. That's a personal preference. So half of these I flattened and half I did not. This is actually a comparison between 2 batches of dough, one that was made and chilled, and then one that was made and went right straight ahead to baking. Let's talk about what we found here. All right, these are the refrigerated dough, the ones that started as balls and weren't smashed down, a little bit taller cookie to end up with. Definitely got the characteristic Snickerdoodle crackle on the top. They may look like they're doughy. That's to be expected. Okay, these that I've flattened down, spread out more as you would expect. Maybe not as much crackling on top. Cookies that were made fresh and then baked off. Okay, and again, on the right, okay, away from you, these are the ones that were smashed. They spread out more. Okay, they got a nice flat finish to them. The ones that start as a ball, a little bit gooier. So the cooling rack can help cool them down at the risk of burning a finger. I can go ahead and slide off the Silpat just so they have a chance to start cooling down. So when they stay on the sheet pan for another 10 minutes, there's that concept we've talked about in class of carryover baking, which could be part of what we need, but we also got to get these cookies ready to go. And now that these cookies are on the cooling racks, it's time for final cool down.